If I did my job well, then at the end of this video you should be familiar with every single advanced movement technique available in Apex Legends. I expect you to have at least finished the training mode of this game and have a fundamental understanding of basic movement in FPS games. Throughout this video I'll be using a keyboard overlay. I have the following things on mouse buttons: weapon 1 and 2, crouching, my tactical ability, and holstering the weapon. The movement techniques I'm going to present in this video are available to all legends. They all have the same base speed and movement. The different speed of arm animations is the only thing tricking you into maybe thinking otherwise. Before we start, I strongly advise you to switch your crouching from toggle to hold. And if you're on PC, adding your mouse wheel as a second jump input. It could be argued that the slide is the most important movement tech in this game, and it is much more nuanced than what you get to see in the training mode. To start, you shouldn't underestimate the slide you can do on flat ground. Slide around a bit and get a feeling for the boost the slide gives you and when this boost comes to a stop. If you now add a jump into that, you get to keep the momentum from that boost for a bit longer, with what is called a slide jump. So sprint, hold crouch, jump, land, let go of crouch. I want you to hold on to crouch for the landing, so you internalize the following as soon as possible. Always hold crouch as soon as you are in the air. If you want to keep momentum in this game, the slide is the first step for that. If you add a jump before the slide, the resulting slide will get a bigger boost. That's called jump sliding. Slide jumping only works well if you started with a sprint. But jump sliding can work out of a simple walk, which also means you can do it in every direction. So walk, jump, hold crouch. Try to get into the following habit. Let go of forward as soon as you are in the air if you do a jump slide forward. But keep holding on to left or right if you do it to the sides. This has no influence whatsoever on whether jump slides work or not. You can do it in all directions with or without holding onto the movement. But training it this way will prepare you for bunny hopping later. Just trust me on this one. So, slide jumping and jump sliding. Both have their utilities. Jump sliding, for example, can be really great in a gunfight. You can use it to peek a corner in a way the enemy doesn't expect, throw off their aim, and get behind cover for reloading. Slide jumping, on the other hand, is the backbone of many other movement techniques. So I advise you to really deepen your training with it. Especially get used to how long you need to sprint in between slide jumps, since doing it too quickly in succession will not work. After that, we can build on it with airstrafing. Airstrafing is your ability to steer yourself mid-air by turning your view into the same direction you are moving. It's easiest to train this with Octane and his jump pad. Be aware that if you input a forward movement while trying to airstrafe, you'll lose large parts of your steer ability. If you have absolutely no experience with airstrafing, I recommend you watch the first 3 minutes of my grapple slingshot tutorial, where I explain airstrafing in detail. Once you get the hang of it on the jump pad, the best way to get comfortable with it around the map is using it down slopes. So initiate a slide, keep holding crouch, jump and airstrafe, before landing and a slide again. Here I also want to enforce that you don't need to hold forward while sliding. Once you start sliding, the only button you need to hold is crouch, which also lets you spin in any direction without slowing down. You start the slide, let go of forward and don't have to worry about it anymore for any following maneuvers, like an airstrafe jump, or a second jump, and then a third and a fourth and so on, which leads me into bunny hopping. If you want to train bunny hopping specifically, it's easier to not use airstrafing in the beginning. So the same as before. Slide, keep holding crouch, jump, and as soon as you touch the ground, jump again. Rinse and repeat. Get used to it like this first, then introduce small airstrafes and increase them to bigger ones, slowly transitioning onto shallower slopes before transitioning onto flat land. On PC, bunny hopping is much easier to do if you bind your mouse wheel as the second activation key for jumping. This isn't as important for bunny hopping down some slopes, but on flat land and in close quarters it gets much easier this way. Let's go through bunny hopping on flat ground in slow motion. The main thing I want you to notice here is that when I switch airstrafe directions, I do it while being in the air. Trying to switch directions together with the jump is the biggest beginner mistake. Sadly, there is no fast way to magically make you into a bunny hop god. You just have to practice it a lot. Bunny hopping is especially useful to Pathfinder and Octane, who can easily generate their own momentum. But all other legends also greatly benefit from it. Basically train yourself to hold crouch whenever you're in the air and bunny hop when possible. You would be surprised how often you can generate momentum out of your traversal around the map this way. But be aware that this is not always the fastest method to get around. Experiment around with introducing jumps into slides to get a feeling which is faster in particular situations. If you mastered all of this, it would be time to talk about something I call close quarters airstrafing. Airstrafing is not only about large corrections, but also very much about tiny maneuvers while traversing around the map. You can use it to turn around a corner, correcting little jumps, or even avoid obstacles. But airstrafing does not only help in changing your direction, but also adds momentum to your movement. It's much less noticeable in Apex, but back in Titanfall, which runs on the same modified source engine, you could create speed out of thin air just by airstrafing. So you often will see me do this in my slide jumps. If you strafe sprint before slide jumping, you can add an airstrafe towards your target and get there faster. The advantage from these advanced slide jumps is definitely lower compared to what else you can do with movement in this game. But it helps in keeping you alert and builds up muscle memory for bunny hopping. The most helpful is close quarters airstrafing in gunfights or intense moments. So another thing you should practice here is holstering and unholstering your gun. Running with a gun out is slower than running with it holstered. So not having your gun out while just traversing around the map is pretty self-explanatory. But knowing when to holster and unholster your gun during a fight can give you that tiny little speed advantage over your enemy. The big difference between training and actual gunfight is that if you get shot, your slide is briefly disabled. Sometimes this will get you killed, but the duration your slide is disabled is very short, and more often than not, it's totally worth trying to slide during gunfights. But if you want to avoid getting shot in the first place, you should start using evasive maneuvers to dodge bullets. You start this by strafing left and right. Different weapons have different strafe speeds when aimed down the sides. Pistols are the fastest, LMGs are the slowest. This is one of the major reasons why the wingman is still so strong currently. You can just strafe spam with it so easily. This is also the reason why you want to hipfire LMGs in close quarters. An extreme version of strafe spamming would be strafe spam juking, where you don't aim at a target, but also spam your aim left and right. It's a mix of evading bullets, faking out the enemy, and making it harder to guess in what direction you'll go next. But if we go back to normal strafe spamming, the next thing would be to add a jump and a slide in there. If you want to evade bullets while sprinting, you could try a momentum stop. Sprint and just switch directions while jumping. If you want to get away from someone and quickly into cover, you could give momentum shifting a try. It's using a reverse airstrafe to very suddenly switch directions. So slide jump, turn your view to the right while performing a left, backwards, right movement. Or turn your camera to the left while doing a right, backwards, left movement. In high tense clutch situations, this can save you. If you want to melee someone while they are shooting at you, jump as you melee. Not only does this make you a bit harder to hit, but you can also melee in quicker succession. And the last thing I want to talk about to dodge bullets is this, a climb jump, which is incredibly powerful around trees to throw off the enemy's aim, but can also be used for traversal. So let's talk about traversal via climbing. In this game you can hold jump while inputting a forward movement to climb, but you don't have to be standing at a wall to climb it. You can also do it out of a jump. So run up to the wall, Jump once and then keep holding jump while continuing to input a forward movement. But here is where it gets really interesting. You can, while you are in the climb animation, let go of holding jump and forward before inputting another jump. This throws you backwards off the wall and you can do all sort of things with this. Another technique that throws you off the wall that is useful in far more situations is wall jumping. If you slide jump into a wall, you can wall jump off of it. So slide jump, let go of moving forward and jump a second time at the highest point of your jump. You also have to look perpendicular to the wall at the moment of impact. You can add airstrafing towards and off the wall to gain some serious speed from it. I myself have not spent much time on this yet, but I think especially the airstrafe variant has some serious implications for traversal around the map. While you are climbing, if you let go of the forward input at the right moment, you can grab onto a ledge and peek over it. Overall, just be creative with climbing. You can not only climb forward, but also to the sides a bit. The game also gives you a little boost when at the end of a climb. This lets you climb much more things around the map than you'd think. Not only are there unexpected climbing routes around buildings, but a bunch of rock formations can also be climbed this way. While we are at buildings, you can also use doors to assist you in climbing a roof. Also use them with your movement. Close them as you move through them to briefly block off an enemy, or use them as cover when you enter a room. Speaking of things you can interact with in the map, while you ride on a zipline, you can sort of bunny hop on it. As long as you keep holding the interact button, you can jump on it as much as you want and will always re-engage. This is especially helpful in throwing off an enemy's aim. This is slower than actually riding it, so try to find a balance of traveling fast and being a harder to hit target. You can also use ziplines to super jump. Just interact with the zipline and immediately jump off of it. And I think here I could be the first to discover this. If you input a crouch before interacting with the zipline and jump off fast enough, you can get a huge boost from it. And you don't have to slide for this to work. You can also do it out of a walk. This is another case where jumping via mouse wheel is really helpful. But this, as many other movement techniques, requires some training. Use this technique to not only get a boost into the direction you are traveling, but also to get height and change directions. For this you want to turn into the direction you want to end up with before reaching the zipline. If you don't use the zipline of the redeploy balloons for super jumping, but for their intended purpose, you might want to know how to extend your range from them. Look up when you get to the top, immediately look down and then level out again. You want to peak at a speed of around 142. This is the optimal tactic to cover the most distance on flat ground, but you can vary this technique to adapt to different terrain. If you dive against a slope, for example, it doesn't matter which technique you use. While we are at flying, when you drop out of the dropship and your target is in line with the ship's flight path, the fastest way to get there is to drop at 300 to 400 meters away from it. If the surrounding area allows for it, you could try to hit walls or rocks on your way down. This cancels the dive and falling is faster than diving. This can give you the split-second advantage you might need to win the first critical gunfights. Try to hit melee before hitting the ground. This uses the melee animation to cancel the timer for getting stuck for a second. This does not only work here, but for all falls throughout the map. The timing of this is hard to get right, but why not try and train it from now on? You want to have nearly finished the melee animation before you hit the ground. But even better than that is holding crouch and aim for slopes. This way you can transform some of the fall into forward momentum. If your target is not in line with the ship's path, you need to make some distance. Here's the best tactic for that. Drop straight down till you reach a speed of 145. Level out as fast as possible. Continue till around 130 to 132, then drop again till you reach 140. Level out again, repeat over and over. If you approach the ground, try to hit slopes and hold crouch as you touch down. After we talked about movement that is available to all legends, I want to just briefly touch on legend-specific movement. Bloodhound, Octane, Wraith, Bangalore and Mirage all get speed increases from their abilities. So use them with that in mind. For example, Jump as the ability is about to end, and Bunny Hop to keep the momentum a bit longer. You can also use them to run away from enemies or get back into the ring a bit faster. Speed increase from abilities is also the only way to heal while bunny hopping, else you'll come to a stop after 2 to 3 hops. Of course, Octane benefits the most from that, but even if you have no speed increasing ability available, you can still heal while sliding down some slopes. Wraith's portal is distance based, not time based, so don't worry if you want to wait to cross open areas after you activated the portal. I'm not going to talk about Pathfinder and his grapple, since I already made a Slingshot specific guide for that, and I'm working on a general grapple and Pathfinder guide. You know what to do if you don't want to miss that. I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new from it. Did I do my job well? Is literally every advanced movement tech covered in here? If not, let me know what I forgot in the comments. And if you have any other questions or things you want to say about movement, all of that is very welcome down there. This video is mostly about the technical side of things and not that much about the actual usage and combination of movement tech during gameplay. If you want to see some insane players that combine all the stuff I described in here on a daily basis, I can recommend you watch the streams of Aceu and Stormen. Seeing them play the game definitely had an influence on this video. I also watched other movement guides and get some of my insights from the Apex Legends and the Apex-University Subreddits. Links to everything mentioned in this video will be in the description. And of course, I also have to thank all of you who engaged about discussions around movement in my other videos. I love to educate and share knowledge, and I think it's only fair to be open about where I learn about new aspects of the game. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.